Hello, everybody, and welcome to You Are Playing Bow Wrong, which is actually, I advised you to play Bow Wrong, so sorry about that. But as is always the case with any new Monster Hunter, optimal things change very often at the beginning of a release. So this video is going to go over the optimal ways to play bow. If you're curious about an endgame bow build to strive for, you can check the video in the description. But this video is about how to optimally use the weapon for the best damage output. So this video does also assume that you know the basics of how to play bow. If you haven't touched it at all, I would definitely recommend my how to play bow video, as the information on how the weapon works is correct and there's a lot of nice tips in there. I just have some changes that I want to discuss. I'm also going to leave an updated bow build at the very end of this video, so if you do want to check that out, it's basically the same as the one that we use for elemental crit kind of stuff in the endgame bow build. It's just updated slightly to be a little bit more efficient, but that will be at the end if you want to check that out. So let's first go over the most general playstyle of bow that can work with just about any build except the Dragon Piercer ones, which I will explain later. You want to maintain the max charge level of your bow and use your circle attacks, or B if you're on Xbox. So here's an example of what you're going to be doing most of the time. Shoot to get your max charge, or aim your bow to get max charge, shoot with R2, press circle for power shot, perform charging sidestep, and then repeat. Now, when you do have a larger opening for attacks, you're going to do this exact same sequence, but after your power shot, you're going to press circle again to perform your power volley, then you'll continue that same pattern. Of course, you also want to be equipping your coatings and perfectly dodging with circle to perform discerning dodge, but that is going to be your bread and butter of fighting against every monster with a general bow build. Flying Swallow Shot you can make good use of in any bow build to use as a way to kind of reposition either closer to the monster or further away, or to get back to a body part of the monster that you want to hit. Now, when it comes to your Focus Strike Hailstorm, you almost always just want to let one of the lock-on parts of the triangle finish and then let it go. The reason for this is because you're going to want to use your Focus Strike to interrupt monsters 9 out of 10 times, and especially against the higher level monsters, you're just not going to have time to lock on for longer than that. The other reason you don't want to wait for the lock on is because if the monster has multiple wounds, locking onto the two parts of that triangle will start locking onto the other wounds. And you're generally not going to want to do that because wounds cause the monsters to stagger so much that you want to blow them up one by one to get those staggers. Now, I firmly believe that Capcom is going to nerf the stagger from wound popping because it feels very reminiscent of just spamming flash pods in World, where a monster would go in the sky to get away, you'd flash them down, they'd fall down, you do a bunch of damage, they get up to fly away, you flash them down. It feels very similar to that, and they ended up solving that problem in Monster Hunter World. So I expect this to change, and if that does change, then we will revisit if we want to use our Focus Strike Hailstorm differently. But for now, you want to do one by one, lock onto one portion of that lock on and let it fly. Now, the only time I do lock on to multiple at once is if I'm right at the end of the hunt and I'm pretty sure a multi-wound pop will kill them. Because if you do pop multiple wounds at the same time, it will do more damage. It has a multiplier on it. So I can normally gauge, I think all of us, if we play for long enough, can gauge when a monster is about to die. So if I feel like that is the case, then I will do the multi-lock on. A small tip I can give you with another way to use your focus fire is you can just tap R1 to do your focus strike to drop environmental traps on monsters. It has a pretty high arc, so it will be great at dropping vine traps and rocks, etc., without you having to aim and shoot it with your bow or put your weapon away and fire your slinger at it. So I've been using that a lot. Just tap it, does a big arc, knocks everything down. Now you're probably wondering, you haven't mentioned Tracer. Tracer was so good. Why aren't we using it? You're not talking about it. Well, there's a few reasons. Post the Wilds beta, Tracer was nerfed quite substantially. It doesn't increase the damage of your arrows, it doesn't give you unlimited range, and they also removed the ability to animation cancel whipping out the Tracer. So now the move simply takes too long to perform when all it's really giving you is a little bit of extra range and making every shot you shoot act as if it were at maximum charge, so you shoot the max amount of arrows no matter what. The other thing it offers you is there is a small explosion when you do blow it up. But the damage, again, it just doesn't make up for how long it takes to do. Now, you might think that being at maximum charge sounds great. We can be at maximum charge, our arrows, all the time without having to be at maximum charge. But the problem is, we are dashing to maintain max charge constantly. And when we perfect dodge, that also charges up our shots. So our goal when playing bow is to be at max charge no matter what anyway. So a move that makes our bow perform as if it is at max charge doesn't really offer anything to us. Tracer can also ironically cause your shots to miss sometimes, as they do a weird little tilt towards the monster. Tracer is also not great if you're using Pierce Coating or if you're using Dragon Piercer, because it prevents the shot from going all the way through the monster, which is what you want it to do. Now, there are some times that I will use Tracer, and that's when I'm trying to hit a very specific part of a monster, such as Gore Magala's little feelers, or a monster that is just super mobile in general. But besides that, it just doesn't do much for us, that just dashing and shooting doesn't do better. Now, please remember that none of this is to say that you shouldn't use Tracer and you're throwing if you use Tracer. If you enjoy using Tracer or you find it to be super helpful, then you should absolutely do it. And if you're like, well, I'm actually not so good at hitting my shots, but Tracer makes me able to have more consistent damage, then obviously you're going to do more damage if you're using Tracer, because you're going to hit the monster more often. So please do keep that in mind. I'm just saying, in terms of raw damage output, weaving in Tracers isn't really what we want to be doing. Now, Thousand Dragons. Oh, baby. This one makes me a little sad because it looks so cool. And the idea of creating a shotgun build that utilizes Thousand Dragons does excite me. The move does create wounds super fast, so I'll try and test some things and come up with a way that we can use Thousand Dragons at least reasonably well. It doesn't need to be the most meta OP crazy thing ever, but I will try and think of a way to use it. Again, if you think it's cool, you can use it. Just saying. That we're talking about optimal DPS here. Arc Shot is another move that I just don't use in my regular rotations. It has the same issue as Tracer, where it just takes so long to do and doesn't have a lot of payoff. The only time I use it is when I get into crazy multi-monster fights and they all have wounds. I'll drop Arc Shot on top of them to be able to lock onto both of the monster's wounds immediately, because that's just a lot of fun. Arc Shot does do KO damage, so you could make an argument for dropping Arc Shot on top of a monster that's drooling or looking exhausted, but again, you can probably get them to flinch and fall over faster by just continuing to shoot them in the face. Now let's touch on Dragon Piercer. We do have a build on the channel that you can build into where you just spam Dragon Piercer as much as you possibly can, making use of the fast Dragon Piercer that happens after a combo, and learning when you can make use of the slower, harder hitting Dragon Piercer in a safe way. This is a great way to play in multiplayer, actually, because you won't be running out of stamina. That's my main issue when playing multiplayer, because you can't guarantee being targeted to get your stamina back unless you use a luring pod, but it's not super efficient. It's also great against any long monsters or ones with lots of limbs to cut off, like Shewu and New Udra. I actually did a solo hunt using Dragon Piercer and got 5 out of 6 tentacles. That's right, it's possible. Dragon Piercer is also just great to throw into the standard way of playing bow that we discussed earlier in the beginning of the video. So don't think, I don't have a Dragon Piercer build, I can't use Dragon Piercer, or it's not going to be good. It's just super freaking good in Wilds. It is a great move in Wilds. It also feels like from the beta to now, they've made it easier to cut off tails with Dragon Piercer. I don't know. I don't know if that's true. That's just how I feel. But it's just really good, so I'll always recommend that you throw one out on a downed enemy towards the end of your dashing combo, or if a monster's running away. Or I like to do it especially when I'm running out of stamina and it's safe for me to do it. I'll just throw out a Dragon Piercer. So that is the optimal way to play: shooting, dashing, using coatings, throwing in a Dragon Piercer sometimes, or focusing entirely on a Dragon Piercer build. Again, this doesn't mean that if you are playing bow and really enjoying using the other moves that you are playing it wrong. It's just not the most top DPS you can get. And yes, I'm very aware that the title or the thumbnail or whatever says you're playing bow wrong. That's because YouTube likes clickbait. And it's only slightly clickbait, okay? It's not totally clickbait. Now, I am determined to make a bow build based around Flying Swallow Shot, so keep an eye out for that. And I'm also going to be putting together some builds for those of you who are newer to the weapon and want some more comfy skills besides just running Evade Window. Now I'm going to give you guys just a little bit of an update on the kind of bread and butter build that I've been using, the BBBs. This is essentially the same as the other build that I showed you using 4-piece gore and then the Arc Vulcan mail, but I've just added a couple extra things. We've got Adrenaline Rush, we've got Burst, we've got Counter-Strike, we've got Coalescence. I also added an Ambush just because I don't really need Refresh with Stamina Surge, and I've kind of been mixing these up, the 2 slots that is, using either Part Breaker or going Evasion Jewel. Like if I'm going against 5-star tempered Gore Magala, I'm probably gonna run more evasion because he hurts and sometimes I can't dodge so good. So I have kind of a mixture of things going on. Everything else is still the same. We're focusing on weakness exploit, constitution, we've got decent evade window, max antivirus, but we've just got a bunch of little buffs. Like burst is going to be giving us a little bit more of element and raw. Counter-Strike, if you're unfamiliar with the way that Counter-Strike works on bow and any weapon that can guard or do a counterattack or whatever, with bow specifically, if you do your perfect dodge, but you get hit by some kind of AoE, so a good example is Arkveld's chain attack that he does when he's all powered up. The other chain that comes down can actually hit you. That will proc Counter-Strike while you're perfect dodging. Another example is like Rathalos. If you dodge one of Rathalos' things, but like his little AoE fire kind of hurts you, anything that is going to still hurt you, but you are perfect dodging the attack generally, it will proc Counter-Strike, which is giving you +10 attack, which is nice. Also, I don't know about you guys, but I'm not perfect, so I'm gonna just straight up get hit sometimes, and when I do, I get Counter-Strike. I also added an ambush on here just to try it out today. And it's great if you start the fight off with a sneak attack, of course, because you just get increased damage for a little bit. So give it a try and see what you think. I really do think that these 2 slots are super interchangeable. You can do something like resentment or peak performance, maximum might, heroics, part breaker, evade window, evade extender. I think any of these are generally going to be pretty solid options and are super flexible. Now, when it comes to the bow, if you are using an Artian bow, this is what I've been using. I've been using the spread deco, critical jewel to give us some of the crit boost. And then if you have this deco right here that is Tetrad shot plus the element of the bow that you're using, so for example this is a water bow, then grab Tetrad shot and water attack because you're going to get just a little bit more water, which is nice. Same thing with any of the other elements. We've got Tetrad shot thunder, Tetrad shot dragon. Now if you are using not an Artian bow because you want to, either you haven't got the roll that you want or you just want to look super cool, I've been going with a mixture of spread, expert, and critical, or I've been going, if it's not a negative affinity bow like the Blanganga bow, I've been going spread, crit boost, critical, or I'll go spread and just max out Tetrad shot, depending on the bow, of course. For example, the Blanganga bow has Tetrad shot on it, so we don't need to get more Tetrad shot because we already have it. So that is going to do it for our update on how to play bow optimally. I will make sure to update you guys at any time I find something or something changes that I hear about. I will make sure to update you. If you have any tips, tricks, builds, or whatever, please do leave it in the comment section. And stay tuned for more Monster Hunter Wilds. We're going to make some fun builds that are fun but still optimal, and then I'm gonna make you guys some comfy stuff if you're like, damn it, I'm getting hit a lot and I just want to be a little bit more comfy. Thank you guys so much for watching. Bye.